Map Publishing, where we discuss the secrets of Edward Leedskalnin's Coral Castle, how they pertain to the Temple of Solomon, periodic table, and DNA. All right, so today we're going to discuss this right here, which should pop up on the screen on one side or the other. But I want to talk about this flat earth Bible connection thing and how people get this wrong. If you read certain things in the Bible, Habakkuk chapter 1 verse 6 says, for lo, or that means look, for lo, I raise up the Chaldeans, that bitter and hasty nation, which shall march through the breadth of the land to possess the dwelling places that are not theirs. So according to the flat earthers, these people only go in one direction. That's breadth. And we know the Bible describes temples as length, width, and height. Okay? And the term breadth is interchangeable with width, I think. Breadth and width, the same thing. So you'd say length, breadth, and height, I do believe. But people take these things and they show you these flat earth models, and they basically look like a bullseye, where all the continents are here, and then you got this ice wall. So it's a big bullseye. And what that actually is today we're oriented north to south. But at one point, it was this way. And the earth went it rolled like a ball. Okay, if you roll this like a ball, just like the planet Uranus. So today we spin on the axle oriented this way. But if you look at Uranus, it goes where the North Pole would be our east. And I noticed there was something amiss when I started arranging the zodiac according to, let me mention something. I screwed up in one of my earlier videos and I got tongue twisted. I started talking without thinking about the Battle of Armageddon and the 1,000-year reign of Christ. And that is followed by the Age of Ages and the two different time frames involved. I started talking about, I got the ox ahead of the cart, I messed up, so I want to correct that earlier statement in that other video. Somebody, I'm sure, caught it and said, and they'll find fault with you. But really, it was just a slip. You got the Jesus returning on the Mount of Olives and the Mount splitting, and that happens after the Battle of Armageddon, where Jerusalem is attempted to be overthrown by the Antichrist on horseback, and the armies of the Antichrist coming into Jerusalem after the temple was desecrated. So that clicks off the return of Christ ruling from current day Israel. After 1,000 years of Jesus ruling from current day Israel, the armies of the world rebel against this system. And they attack, and God just says, I've had enough of this. And that's where the whole planet gets changed. And everything gets burned with a fervent heat, and all the elements melt. So what happens at that point is the earth is completely recreated, and the city of New Jerusalem descends down, and nobody really knows where it's going to be. And I say it's probably going to be in the South Pole. That's my guess. But it could sit where modern day Israel is. We don't know. God could redesign the whole shooting match. We don't know. But that clicks off what's known as the age of the ages, or ages of ages. And that is where the sun and the moon are no longer necessary. It's in Revelation. Don't want to get into it. I just want to correct that earlier mistake I made. But anyway, getting back into this and the flat earth, how these people get things messed up is, back then, the planet was a moon-sized object. baby rocky planets, the moons of Jupiter and Saturn and Uranus and Neptune, those came from inside Mommy Planet. So whether Saturn produces them all, or whether these planets are, what do you call it, or at one time were, what is it when a worm can reproduce itself? These gas giants may at one time have been hermaphrodites. And this gets into a lot of stuff from the ancient world. Original mankind, before Adam and Eve, possibly produced themselves. They did not need a partner. This is why Mary was able to produce a virgin birth. But anyway, the Catholics freak out when you talk like this, because they're just convinced that Mary's this, oh, woo, holy, They put her up on this pedestal she does not deserve. Does not deserve it. God takes on the male form. And this is one of those things that, unless you get this through your thick skull, your theology will always be wrong. And this is what I argue with my old family members who were staunch Roman Catholics. And I say, listen, things were different before. Adam and Eve represent a branch off, just like Christianity branched off of Judaism. And it's called the graft, that God took this type of grape and grafted it into the family of Israel. That's who we represent, Christians. And this bifurcation was the separation of the sexes. The original man design was both in one. And Mary, and scientists today are like, oh, the Bible's all BS. It's like, oh, how can a woman just have a baby? Are you that dumb? Because it's possible holdover from the old system. And once you realize, okay, what applies to humans, if you look out in space and say, well, where did the rocky planets came from? They came from the womb of a gas giant. Now, whether Saturn spewed them out and they all got grabbed by these gas giants, or these gas giants may have been hermaphroditic, asexual. They can produce their own kind, or they could at one point before the fall of Lucifer. Okay, so when Adam and Eve showed up, that ended that system. Done. Okay, so today, for us to talk about the virgin birth of Mary, or Jesus by way of Mary, people just don't get that. And I'm like, it's pretty obvious that what happens with humans happened with these gas giants. And by the way, these gas giant planets, people talk, oh, the Nephilim. That's talking about more than just giants like Goliath. They actually exist. I believe even to this day that there's forms that are still around, but I've never seen one, so I can't say scientifically it's a fact. But there's pretty decent evidence that there's something out there that's pretty massive. And it chooses not to be near us. I don't blame it. But so these things that you read about that are flesh are also astronomical events, astronomical objects in space. Gas giants are the giants. This is who Goliath is represented astronomically. All right, and that took me a while to realize, oh, the Bible's a multi-layered onion. Yes, it's built like Genesis 6:16, Noah's Ark, the lower, second, and third levels. And it gets very difficult when you get down to the third level of the ark, trying to explain things to people. They just don't get it. They're so dumb. They've been dumbed down by a lot of factors have dumbed them down. But so this graphic is probably one of the most important things I've ever done. And I didn't have this up until maybe a couple of years ago when I first started this podcast. I couldn't believe how easy it went together. It took me 4 years of cracking my brain on this. And then all of a sudden, once I started filling in the blanks, I was like, man, that wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. But you know this is the XY axis. So the X is this way and the Y is this way. All right? So you have everything above this line is positive X, positive Y. and everything below that is negative x, negative y. And the old system used Rachel, Leah, right, left, and Ephraim and Manasseh, east, west. You take the M, you flip it, you get a W. So west is always the M, and east or L, okay, because if you read about the place that Jacob, it was called Luz, and then afterwards it was called Bethel, the house of God. And this gets into the left and right, the east and the west. Okay, so the way that positive x, positive y, negative x, negative y was explained is different. It was using people instead of letters and numbers, which are obviously way simpler, way easier to deal with. You're condensing, you're making data, you're compressing data in a more efficient system. But that's not how the ancients did it. They did it different. They used people, places, and things. And people represented heavenly bodies. People represented star systems, whole clusters of stars. If you read Hamlet's Mill, it gets into the failure of the ancients trying to explain the rivers of the Greek underworld through the heavens. They knew that there was some connection to these rivers. The Styx is the most famous one. By the way, this is ST. S is south, T is Jesus cross, it's positive, it's north. ST and YX. What is the YX, guys? Come on. They're like, oh, Rene Descartes just had a braingasm and figured that out. No, he knew about the river Styx, you dodo bird. Come on, dodo bird. Don't insult my intelligence. Guys, come on. You're stealing from the ancient world, and then you're saying, oh, look at our guy did. Come on. Stop it. You're killing me, Smalls. So the ancient system, I admit, can get pretty difficult to explain. Like I say, that third level to the arc, you can end up bogging down because everyone's expecting, oh, well, let me see. It's east, Ephraim, west, Manasseh, right, looking at it from the right, looking at it from this way, that's Rachel and that's Leah. It's not so easy, people, because the earth does this. Every what do you call it? 6 months, right? We go into summer, winter. All right, so Rachel becomes this way and Leah becomes that way. It all gets all messed up. So it's not quite easy beans, is it? No, it gets a little weird. Okay? And the other thing is everyone's expecting, well, if Rachel's over here, Leah must be direct diagonal over there. Well, what do you do with Ephraim? Well, we'll put him underneath, directly across from Manasseh. They could be crisscrossed. Did you ever think of that? So this stuff gets very difficult to explain to people. And that's why I tell you that one of the most mysterious places is the belt of the earth, which is the equator. Okay? And you got to remember, if the earth, which is this way, north and south, is now east and west, right? Now you got east-west, all right? That really gets things kind of hard to explain to people. Because we've left the old system, we're in a completely different system, and you're trying to explain that old system to people. It makes you just go blah, 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 blah. That's why a lot of people give up on the Bible. The equator is the Ouroboros, the snake that's upside down eating its own tail, or its tail is upside down and it's eating its tail. That's the body is twisted. That's a Mobius strip. We've already covered this in earlier videos. You take this strip of paper, you put one twist in it, and you reconnect it. And that's a treadmill. If you were to walk around and around, look where you end up. You start ending up on the outside. So now you go around and around, and now you're back on the inside. Do it. I dare you. Go get a flat piece of paper. It's hard to believe, but it's true. So when you're trying to explain to people about why they perceive the earth as being flat, they're stuck in the old system where the earth was going like this instead of like this. like we are today. And that circle of the earth was radically different. Okay? We don't know how long the earth took to go a full 360 degrees. We don't know. We know the longest living human was Methuselah, 969 years. That's almost 1,000. Okay, and if you look at some of these planets way, way out, all right, their rotational period is a long time. So if the Earth did still rotate South Pole, North Pole, and the weather patterns changed according like that, a whole group of people may have lived their lives and died before that planet made one change from summer to winter. And people may have migrated completely from one side of the planet to the other because they knew this side's going to be frozen. You want to be over here. We don't know. We just know things were really weird. Okay? In the old system, before Adam and Eve, all right, the beings that were there before Adam and Eve, in the pre-Adamite world, all right, they had it radically different. They lived, well, even Adam and Eve's offspring lived a long time. And people say, oh, there's no way you can live 1,000 years. I disagree. And they did not require our sun. They used red spectrum. Okay? Things were vastly different. You read about the fountains, the earth was watered by way of what? Geothermal. Okay, so where we see these volcanoes today, these mountain ranges and volcanoes, no. It was all huge, massive geysers. Okay, so even when the planet was in complete wintertime, they may have all hovered around like they do in the wintertime at Yellowstone. You see all the animals hanging around, Old Faithful. All right? So you have to really use your imagination. Man, what was the world like back then? Man, it was radically different. So there's a couple of things I want to bring out about this. I'm going to hit pause for a minute. We're going to have to look up a scripture here. Serpent. All right, we're back. Listen to what the serpent says to Eve in Genesis 3, starting at verse 4 and ending up on 5. He says, And the serpent said unto the woman, You shall not surely die. For God doth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be open, and ye shall be as gods, knowing what? What do we know? Well, if E is Eve, evening, evil, then this has to be good. So if east is evil, west must be good. And I told you, this is where things get screwy. It's a serpent eating itself. It's this, with the twist. It's not that simple to explain. And this is how people get this. Oh, the world's flat. Read all these scriptures in the Bible about length, width, and breadth. The New Jerusalem is measured length, width, and height. Okay? There's a lot of things in the Bible. And this is the Hebrew zodiac, according to Jacob's 12 sons, 2 of which are Gemini twins, and 1 daughter. Their system was the same. It's length, width, and breadth. This is describing, I won't call it a sphere. I like Marco Rodin with a K. Marco said it's poloidal. Okay? It has polar opposites. And to describe it as a sphere, like a basketball, is just as dumb as saying it's flat. Because there's really weird stuff that goes on. And things get really strange where you have the daylight turning from nighttime to day and from daytime to night, those two sections of the planet, things get very weird. And I like to point out that group of people, the Koreshians in Florida, they have that globe where if you look up Koreshian, I think it's Koresh, Koreshians in the west coast of Florida. Might have been Tampa area. But that guy had what you call a panorama. He had this vision that in the daytime, we are super massive and everything is small. And in the nighttime, we are super small and everything is super massive, or vice versa. So that makes the Earth look like it's if you deflated a basketball and pushed one side in, like a collapsed blood cell almost, like sickle cell anemia. So out here, you would have the curve, there's convex and concave. I believe convex is the curve outward, meaning the supermassive side, and the inner concave would be the be macro and micro. And so if you look at that globe, you begin to understand what I'm talking about. Go look it up. I'm not going to provide you the picture. Just go find it. So people say, well, that's impossible because no matter where you go, you see the Earth as a sphere. That is very important. And to get that rationalized in my pea brain, I always rely on what Einstein said. You are the observer. And then there's the observer and the observed. And things can be very screwy. And they're not as they appear. And that's what you see magicians doing it all the time. And now you see the government pulling stunts right in front of you. Just like that, you miss it. And people tell you, when you see it and they don't, they get mad and say, oh, you're into conspiracies. Because they're so dumb, they can't see these things. That to you is quite obvious. So when you realize the twist of that serpent around the equator, the North Pole comes out, goes around, and comes into the South Pole, generally speaking. But at the equatorial region, it ain't making it to the South Pole. In the South Pole, there's also what's known as, the best way to describe it, Marco Rodin. I couldn't put my finger on the term, and he said, oh, what you're talking about is called, what do you call it? Backdraft. So you can have this flow of energy, electricity, electromagnetism, and it's generally this way. But anytime you have that type of a circuit, you're going to have it going the opposite way as well. And he called that the negative backdraft. Okay? And so the equator, you see it come out of the North Pole, it gets sucked in at the equatorial region. It never makes it down to the south. Some of it does bleed over, okay? But what comes out of the south in the form of negative backdraft never makes it up to the north. Okay, now there are negative backdrafts that do go outside everything and do end up going in reverse. Most of it's going this way, positive, negative, positive, negative. But you also have it going the other way, right? And where the equator is, on the inner shells, it can't get escape velocity, so it gets sucked into the equatorial region. And things get very strange when that happens. All you have to do to understand what I'm saying is open up a walnut. That walnut will tell you everything you need to know. Nature does not lie, okay? It's telling you, hey, if you do this to your skull, you only have half of what this nut has. How come I only have half a brain? As soon as, when I was a little kid, I'd look at a walnut and go, how come I only have half a brain? I'm supposed to be the greatest thing God ever created. All these people in churches are telling me, oh, you're the greatest thing that God ever created. You got to cherish life and go do things for God and do things for America. And I'm like, but I only got half a brain. So that half a brain that you have, a lot of people fall to this scripture where it says, where Adam actually said it. A man will cleave unto his wife, and those two shall become one flesh. In other words, now you got two brains together, okay? Two bodies together, okay? But really, you don't need the woman, and the woman doesn't need the man. Don't need each other. In fact, you put man and woman together, that's no different than in Genesis. It said that the Hebrews could not dine with the Egyptians because it was an abomination to the Egyptians to dine with these cowboys because they were raising cattle. They were tough people, okay? It's before they went to the promised land, all right? They were crude, hard people. And if you break that statement down, these two groups could not be together. Why? A-bomb, a nation. Egypt is E minus. That's an electron. So when you put this electron together with what? If you put two things together, what annihilates? Positrons and electrons, right? Yeah. So one has to represent the plus, and the other has to represent the minus. And they annihilate. And then you get this, it's like a neutrino. Whatever. Look it up. But that is the science of the Bible. It's right there in front of you. Oh, it can't be talking about A-bombs, man. Come on. It is. It took me a long time to go, wow. Never saw that one ever. Because I had no idea. Egypt means E minus, electron. That's why Pharaoh's chariot was painted with what? Electrum, silver and gold. By the way, that's another set of opposites, right? Gold is always what? The male ego. What's silver? It's a lesser metal, right? That's why, what do you call it? Well, I won't get into the old system, but people say, oh, Venus was brass. Yeah, but back in the day, they used silver as the mirror part. So there's another brass and silver. But when you describe women as being gold, it's always described as what? Brass, never pure gold. It's always copper and, was it copper, zinc? Yeah, zinc and copper give you brass. It's a lesser form of gold. So anyway, if you listen to what the serpent says, ye shall be as gods, knowing what? Good versus evil. West versus east. Day versus night. Husband versus wife. Wife versus husband. Oh, God said don't eat the fruit. No, that's not what he said. That little snake says it's okay. Right? Boink, boink, boink. No, let's not do this. Oh, it's not going to be that bad. Look, we're going to be gods. It's good for food. It's good for the eyes. Lust of the eye, lust of the flesh, pride of life. This is Edom. Look it up. The opposite of Edom is Gedom. That's not in the Bible. No, it's not. But you know if you have an Edom, you're going to have its opposite. What is the opposite of energy, enthalpy, entropy? Death. You give it up. The big sleep. So here, I'm all energetic. Yeah, I'm ready to go. Woo, off I go. I'm a new baby. I'm growing every day. Whoop. Now I'm old. I'm decrepit. My cells aren't reproducing. Guess what? Death. There's two types. Eve found out, right? FAFO. Let's eat the fruit. Spiritual death, separation from God, and physical death. They lived 1,000 years. Thanks, auntie, great aunt, great Grammy to the 10th or 12th power. Now we got to die at 120. We're lucky if we make it to 75. There were times in history where people were lucky to make it to 60 or 50. There were times where it was even less. So you see, this side over here gets really weird, don't it? Because the positive XY and the negative XY, or the positive Leah Manassas versus the negative Leah and Manassas, is spiritual death or physical death, or both. So like I say, when you start trying to explain this stuff to even people who know the Bible, they're like, duh, I don't get it. It's not easy. But that is one of the main talking points that this serpent brings out. Knowing good and evil. Back in the day, when we weren't this way, and we were going this way, like a ball, instead of a dreidel spinning, we were a rolling ball, and we were living a long time in geothermal paradise. That's what they called it. I don't know if it was. But things were radically different. And life and death weren't the struggle that they are today. You know, you had, there's issues that we're dealing with today they did not deal with. I'm quite convinced our bones calcified as a result of it. Those guys back then, their bones were not like ours. They were very flexible. And breaking a bone, someone probably just went, hey, give it to me, crack. And it just grew back like a plant. Okay, they suffered injury, and it wasn't like we deal with today. And their cells were reproducing. They weren't getting all these cancers, and their vision was better, their hearing was better. I could go on and on and on, and they were a lot bigger. So anyway, the E dome and the G dome. So E dome today is this northern hemisphere, and the G dome would be the southern. So E dome is up here, all right? And there's several characters in the Bible. One is Doeg the Edomite. Take Doeg's name. It spells Geod, Geod. So if you think about the heavens at night, back in those days, there's no pollution, no city lights blotting out the sky. They were in a crystal cave. When they looked up at the heavens, they were like, wow. Like you watch Joe Rogan talk about, he took his family up to the observatory in Hawaii. He was very fortunate because a lot of people don't get that. That was a blessing. And he said he could not believe the Milky Way and the stars. And we used to go up to Prince Edward Island when we were young, and it was the same thing. You'd look at the star. You could see every fallen star there was, satellites going by, whatever you wanted to see, they were there. Sky up there was very, very, the night sky was very visible. So you are in a type of geode. If you look at a geode, you pull the rock off, you see all those little crystals in there, right? That's like you're looking at the points of all those crystals, and you're inside that little cave. And that's where these people say, oh, we're in a flat surface and we're in a dome. No. Right here, XY axis, before Rene Descartes, this is the system they used. You get this graphic for like $10. I think we got it there for what, $10? $9.99 or something? Whatever it is. Some graphics are 20, some are 10. And it tells you everything you need to know. You got the four forces of the universe, Okay, you got the 4 cardinal points. All right, that center is your 3, 6, 9 right there. All right, now this gets really difficult to explain because that emanation, that 3, 6, 9, is also a 0.5 and it's also a 1 and 0. You said this is the 1 and that's the 0. Correct. But that is representing the fountain that came out of the center of the Garden of what? Eden, which is N-E-E-D. You take that E-D-E-N and rearrange it. Yeah, that is fountain of fantasy. Those are your flights of fancy. Oh, I'm going to be... And look at all these people that believe, oh, when I die, I'm going to have 40 virgins. Oh, when I die, I'm going to have eternal life. Oh, when I die, I'm going to have good looks. Right? Everyone's got this fantasy. And then they come into this world and they're like, oh, you know, I'm going to be this. I'm going to hit the lottery. I'm going to have good looks. I'm going to have height. I'm going to have girls. I'm going to have this. Girls are saying, oh, I'm going to have Tom Brady and, you know, Henry Cavill. It's fantasy, kid. And it's what gets you up in the morning, believe it or not. You literally trick yourself every day to get out of bed. Excuse me. It's true. That central fountain of fantasy turns into your XY axis. And those are the 4 rivers of Eden. Pison, that's fission. Pison, what's the opposite of that one? And then you got Gihon, is west. That's G, gravity. Hiddekel, H. It's associated with hydrogen and hate. Hiddekel. And things that are hiding, right? And then Euphrates is E. And you got weak force, the man. Strong force, the woman. Wait a minute, guys are stronger than women. Not sexually. Not even close. Weak, strong. E is easy, electromagnetic, EMF, and gravity. Guys, it's not hard. The church screwed you out of a good education. They walked away from this. They handed it over. They handed it over to the academics, the quackademia, the quacks of quackademia. Right? The crackpots that claim, oh, Rene Descartes figured that out. Really? The river Styx? Yeah, I don't think so. The XY axis? Yeah, that was very well understood in the ancient world. That describes the length, width, and breadth of the earth and also of the cosmos. Okay, and the Ouroboros of the equator. Yeah, I don't think so. Nice try. You thief. You liar. You usurper. You usurper. Okay, so I'm here to set the record straight, people. Everything they're telling you, oh man, these scientific terms, man, look at us, we're so sciencey. Old school, buddy. This is the original. It's not hard. And I can go on and on and on about describing things off this chart. Okay? And I've already actually covered this from the perspective of the 12 children. It's technically the 13. Okay? And people are like, oh, there's 12 tribes of Israel. No, there's not. No. To understand that that is patently false, you have to be very educated in the scriptures. Because Reuben screwed up and Jacob gave Reuben's blessing to Joseph's 2 kids, east and west, Ephraim and Manasseh. Okay? There's another proof that this is infrared light or red spectrum, and this is UV. Eve, Adam. Adamo means red man. Originally was this way, rolling like a ball. Reuben, rubidium, ruby, ruby red. He took that away from Reuben, whoop, and he turned it. I'm gonna talk to you about another. All right, I'm gonna talk to you. I'm gonna let you go out and get your little calculator. All right, now when the ball was straightened up, when the little globe was stood up like that, it didn't go straight up and down, did it? No, it's got a 23.5 degree tilt. And this is how I tell you, dumb Christians out there, duh, you were dumbed down by your pastor and your pastor's pastor and your pastor's pastor's pastor. In the 1900s, when Scopes Monkey Trial came out, they just handed everything over to the colleges. Oh, you're so much smarter, devil. You're so much more intelligent than us church people. We'll just teach the salvation, salvation, salvation only message, and we'll let you run amok with your Satanism, and we'll give science over to you. Okay, we're good little slaves. We'll man your armies and your police forces, because that's all we're good for. Lord forbid should we start figuring out our own Bible. Deduct 23.5 from 90 degrees. You know what you come up with? It's almost 666, isn't it? I think it's 66.5, right? Because 66.5 makes 6 with another 0.5 is 67, right? 67, 77, 87, 88, 89, 90. Isn't that weird? It went from rolling like a ball, tilted this way, almost 666. Huh. Because the colleges are really good about saying, oh, it's 23.5, 235, 235. Don't look at the other. Don't do any math, because you'll go, hey, wait a minute, why is this number 666? Keep coming up. Don't know. Very strange. You say, but it's not 666, it's 66.5. 0.5 is your half line, dodo. 3 is down here where your groin is. 3 and 3 is 6. Up here in your heart, 6 is 12. There's your 3, 1 and 2. 9 always ends up with 9. 9 and 9 is 18. That's a 1 and 8. It's a 9. That's your half line. 666. You saying, oh, it's 665, dude. Yes, because you're down here. You're thinking what you think. Not your brains and your heart. Once you realize, oh, so that's why it's off that little bit? Yep. Because now everything's screwed up. Everyone's thinking with their Johnson when they need to be thinking with their brain and their heart, and they're not. The world's spinning all screwed up. Thanks to the fall of Lucifer and consequently the fall of Adam and Eve. Hey, let's be like God. So that little tidbit, by the way, if you look at this, where is the tilt? It's either this way or that way, right? It's either tilting in or it's tilting back. You're either at Joseph or Benjamin. Isn't that interesting? Look at the zodiac according to the Hebrew children of Jacob. And that little tilt, axial tilt of the planet, according to where you are, summer and winter, northern hemisphere, southern, you end up between the two children of who? Rachel. Isn't that interesting? And believe me, I didn't even think about any of this when I started putting them in. I put them in these arrangements for different reasons. This stuff comes out later on after you realize, hey, did I get these characters right? And you start second guessing yourself and you go, well, it fits in this and it fits in that and it seems to be holding water. I think I did pretty damn good. Nobody's going to pat me on the back, so I'm just going to do it myself. Guys, it's all right there, man. It's all in the Bible. You can't make this any simpler. But anyway, I want to leave you with those little tidbits and how the flat earthers, they're talking about when the earth was this way and it was rolling like a ball. And that north side, the red spectrum side was going this way, and we were probably a moon of Jupiter or Saturn. We were small. And the fall of Lucifer recreated everything from Neptune being our sun. That's Nebuchadnezzar, the head of gold. He messed everything up. And now we're in the phase where the solar system is arranged like Goliath. And that's the helmet of brass. Okay? And this was predominantly a patriarchal system. This is a predominantly matriarchal system. Okay? For various different reasons. But when everything went kablooey, the rocky planets got pulled away into their current location, and the Earth split apart at the seams and grew as a result of tilting up to that 23.5 degrees or 66.5 axial tilt. Okay? And when that happened, the Earth expanded. It became either 1/3 or 2/3 larger than it was. And I like to say 2/3 stayed faithful to God during the fall of Lucifer. 1/3 went with Lucifer. Divide 1 by 3. What do you get? 0.333. These guys. The guys who were always like, oh, look at that, 666, that's the bad guy. No, it ain't. You are. You're outside the temple with H1 protium, molecular hydrogen, Molech. I know who Molech is, and you're standing firm with Molech. You're not of God. We receive forgiveness. We're in carbon and fluorine, 6 and 9. You're with the 3 outside. Bye-bye. So when I say how big the Earth grew, right, it was a certain size and it grew by a certain amount. So let's say it's grown by 2/3. You would not be far off. It could be by 1/3. But I'm pretty sure it was this size and it grew 2/3 bigger. And that's when all the continents split apart. And a lot of water got produced because the 4 rivers of Eden, right? You had the small moon. There were 4 rivers coming out of a central fountain from the South Pole to the North Pole. Okay? And they cut out the edges of the continents, South America, Africa, North America, Europe. That was all carved out. Geologists stand on cliffs in Canada and they say, how come the rock was cut going from north to south or south to north? I believe that the current was going south to north. They're like that. It should be going this way, but it was going this way. Right? And they'll tell you, oh, this guy's crazy. But they still don't have answers, do they? They're the first ones to say, this guy's a lunatic. Okay, Mr. Geologist. If I'm a lunatic, why are those rocks carved up in Canada the way that they are? What's your story? And they go, duh, we don't know. I'm plugging answers in where they don't have any. When I tell you Enoch and Elijah are elements 43 and 61, technetium and promethium, only natural elements not found naturally, that's because God took them. I'm giving you answers, Christian ministers, before me, when they were asked, hey, why did God take these 2 guys? What's the deal? Deuteronomy 29 and 29, brother. That's what my pastor taught me. And then you got these guys. This one's a gem. He's like, oh, that astrology is of the devil. I'm not talking about astrology, you dope. This is not astrology. It's astronomy. Well, they don't use that. The Bible condemns that. No, it does not, you dope. You Christian imbecile. The watchmen who went about the city towers around Jerusalem and all the cities in Israel, they had scientific equipment that they were taking angular reads from the stars in the sky. These are the watchmen that I tell you. WM? Yeah. WM, man, woman. Eve, Ephraim, and Manasseh. Okay? That's your MW. It can also be this way, MW, this way. You flip the W, get the M. Positive Y, negative Y. Right? The watchman who went about the city, north, south, east, west, this thing, pulling it out, putting it together, looking at where the hell I am, reading the map, looking at the stars. Come on, guys. Oh, that stuff's against the God's against all that. How do you think they told time in ancient Israel, you dope? Astrology is of the devil, in my opinion. It's an Eve type thing. It's a broken clock. It's always right twice a day. Astronomy is a scientific method. It's very mathematical. Maybe you should learn it. And this is all astronomy. So when these people argue with me on TikTok or whatever, your system's of the devil, I'm like, what? It's astronomy, you dope. That's not in the Bible. Read the book of Job. The end, chapter 38, 39. God reprimands Job for not knowing certain things about astronomy. Can you bring forth Mazzaroth, that's the zodiac, in his season? The Hebrew zodiac was called Mazzaroth. You know the term maze or mazer? It's in there. Nebuchadnezzar, it's in there. ZZ. Guys, get this, learn this stuff. Are you going to be a dumb Christian who falls for whatever academics, the quacks of quackademia, start spoon feeding you? You're going to fall for it. It's time as a Christian to start looking at the lower, second, and third stories of Noah's Ark, aka the Bible, aka the periodic table, and making the connection and saying, hey, you know, this guy's got some interesting ideas. Let's expand upon them. Try to find fault with what I'm doing. I dare you. Show me scripture that you think argues your point better than mine. And you're probably going to show me scriptures that actually prove my point and prove you wrong. I'll guarantee it. I'm confident as I can be. But anyway, that's it for the day. I just wanted to cover this from a different aspect, which is the E-dome, the G-dome. Okay? The dough egg, the geode, the night sky, the northern hemisphere, the southern hemisphere, the hemispheres of your brain. If you're married, you got your other half, that's fine, okay? But if you're single and you have your ducks in a row, you don't need anybody. You're self-sufficient. When you go to sleep at night, your brain goes into IR mode. Right now, you're seeing in what? UV, that's Eve, right? Care not for the morrow, sufficient is the evil therein. That's Eve, evening, daylight. You say evening, that's nighttime. Not necessarily. It's not. So this is UV light. Ewe-lamb. She's the little lamby pie. The little fluffy white light. Okay? And at night, you're dreaming in what? Infrared. So here, your brain is what? It's UV. And at night, you have a real side, real component, and imaginary component. There's always these different aspects of the same object. So even though you have this physical brain, where is the other half of it? Well, when you take in all this knowledge and you start absorbing all this education, you start building that other side of your brain. This is why it's so important to believe in God. And as you're assembling things in your life, that's your other brain. You don't need, people aren't married in the next life. You got to be self-sufficient now. Say, oh, I can't do anything without my wife. I see all these women when their husband dies. They're, oh my God, what am I going to do? Right? Some of them literally jump in the grave afterwards. Right? and others live a happy life. They're like glad to be done with them, right? They know you got to build that other imaginary side of your brain correctly, assemble it with the good material, okay? And this is it right here. It's the length, width, and breadth. It's the New Jerusalem, the cube. A little anecdote. A guy who blew bubbles was asked, hey, can you blow a square bubble? Took him a while and he thought about it. He put 6 of them together and said, look, when you squeeze 6 bubbles together, there's a void in the middle, formed a cube. I went, I'll be damned. He made a square bubble. He didn't make a square bubble. He made a square inside the bubbles. Okay? And notice what? Takes 6 spheres to do that. Okay, to make what? A 6-sided cube. Guys, life gets easy once you wrap your brain around some of these concepts that they're just making so hard. All right, so I'm going to leave you with that. Really don't have anywhere else to go. No amount of anecdotes, and my editor's mad I went overtime. So thanks for tuning in. All right, thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and check us out in the links in the description below.